Please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming and watching. Short report here. Sunday, I participated in the dedication of the new conductor statue at the Caboose Museum. It's not installed yet. About a week and a half, they'll permanently install it in front of the, or on the side of the caboose. I guess everybody was aware that we had a very wet MyFest. The pool will open May 28th. And then, just so everyone, if most people know already that we're going to be losing Printium, they have announced that they will be shutting down their plant. So this is going to be a blow to the community, but we will be working very hard to try and find another company to fill that vacancy. So if you hear scuttlebutt on the street that they are closing, they are closing. So, but out of our control. So anyway, city administrator.
Okay, so the engineering grant that we have been working on and submitted, I have been notified that we did receive it. And again, that is for the engineering portion of the lift station project. That was an 80-20 grant. And we will, the city will pay $12,000 of that. So I'll start working with Archer, and they're going to help me complete the actual grant project application. That is due July 14th, but that is good news. The airport grant, that has been 2 years in the making. It got put on hold. I've never really been given an explanation why, but it is moving along again. So Gary Giesler, the president of the Airport Commission, approached me with possibly adding to the scope of the project. So when the engineers designed it, they designed it with a couple alternates. Well, at the time, we didn't have any additional funds to do any of the alternates. But now, with a couple of years passing, and since then, we've raised the airport hangar rental. They've secured some additional donations. So we're going to look at that again and see. From my really fast numbers, it looks like we could afford to do one of the alternates. They may be interested in trying to get some additional donations to do the second one as well, and that would complete the whole project. So I will keep you up to date on what's going on with that. Gary and I, and maybe Jesse, I haven't asked you yet, will I have a meeting Friday. So last meeting I told you that our gas consultant had told us to be expecting rates to go up, unfortunately. So he did have a special meeting with us last week because he wanted to just touch base with us. He wanted to educate some of the newer members of that commission and give us the reason why, which is pretty basic, why everything is going up right now. So he did say that the last 2 years we've enjoyed unusually low gas rates, and he said that those days are probably over for the foreseeable future. So gas often has hung around $4, traded around $4, but it's going up to $8 for the remainder of the year. And he said that supply and demand, right? And so he said the reason this is because there's been an unusually long winter across the whole continental USA, and so we used up a bunch of the supply. And he said that right now, these gas production companies are happy to sit back and just roll in the cash because of the price is going up because of the supply and demand issue. But they will be forced to start producing right after the first of the year, and then he expects the price to fall off in spring of 2024. But so I'd like to just urge everyone, this isn't unique to us. but and they're predicting a hotter than normal summer. So, everybody needs to be thinking about conservation. But that is a good segue to remind everybody that we do offer a level billing option for your utility bills. We open up the applications once a year, correct? And applications are due June 17th. And Carol and Kathy will work on estimating the gas and/or the electric off of their prior year's usage, average weather conditions, and an estimated cost of gas or electric, and then divide it into 12 equal payments. So there definitely is that option, and that may be good for some people to get in on that. Again, June 17th. Also, kind of in relation to this, I just made in your invoice list tonight, you will be approving our second of 5 annual payments to repay our municipal utility emergency loan from the polar vortex bill from last February. And that is $56,000. So, other than that, we had our budget workshop last week, and I've been, when I find some time, I've been working on making some of those changes. A few little things here and there that I'll notify you of all when we meet again about some things that have either come through since then, large payments, or things that we've ordered that are not coming through that will affect any of our numbers that were on our summary spreadsheet. Other than that, I think I'm done. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Public Works Director.
So I've been asked to address the trees on the 200 block of East 4th Street again. So I'm going to repeat some of the stuff I told you the last time, and I'll go a little bit more in depth here. I guess the last board meeting I was at was 4/25, and we discussed the reason for the removal of those trees. When it was decided that, we were going to redo the curb and gutter in the streets, Todd and I went out and walked the street like we do anytime we do a plan like this, to kind of see what the problems are, things of that nature, what we have to take into the scope of work. As we walked this street, it was really evident to me that the 4 trees on this block were doing serious damage to the infrastructure of the city, be it the street, the curb and gutter, the sidewalk, all those things combined. And they didn't appear to me to be in just real great health. So anyway, the limbs were dying on one of the lindens from the outside towards the inside of the tree. Kind of seemed to me like a look of decline. The 2 sugar maples had both been topped. They were girdle rooted at the base, completely encircled. The other one had some obvious voids and limbs up above and some dead wood in it. So anyway, I went ahead and reached out to a member of the tree commission that is a professional forester, been a certified arborist. He's got 40 years of experience. So he's been studying trees longer than I've been on the planet. Pretty good resource. The tree commission member's opinion was more or less that all of the trees, with what was going on with them already, along with the additional damage that we were going to be doing to these trees, removing the existing curb and gutter that's got to be removed, removing the sidewalk to replace it, that alone would stress it, and add to the decline that these trees were already seeing. So when we discussed that, as I had told you guys the last time, he agreed that the trees should probably be removed due to the lack of longevity that these trees were going to see versus the longevity of the infrastructure we're getting ready to install. And that was when he had made the recommendation that we move the sidewalks to the curb, increase the space in the yard itself of the city's property to plant trees in a responsible place, that the tree would have room to grow and do what it needs to do in a healthy manner. He went to the other tree commission members in a little kind of a side meeting at the Arbor Day thing and discussed that. Reported back to me that everybody agreed with moving forward with that. That was at the Arbor Day event, and then I came to you guys. And just as an aside, 6 years ago, I took this guy to the park to look at some wasp gall that we had in some oak trees. And like, we were there to look at 2 trees, and they were way over here, right? So he's like, we look at these trees, and he tells me, yeah, the wasps are in them bad, you know, they need to go, they're already dying. And he looked at these trees from like 200 yards away, and he's like, those trees are in decline bad. They look fine to me, absolutely fine. We walked over there, and he's like, you see how little those leaves are versus those leaves? You see how that's brighter yellow than that? Anyway, this year we had to remove them because they're all dead. We had dead limbs everywhere in the park, obviously not an ideal place for dead limbs. But you get my point, this guy knows his stuff. We're super fortunate to have a guy like that around here. I've gone to him several times, and it's not just, like, I'm not just going out and picking somebody off the side of the road and being like, hey, tell me I can remove these. So, okay, now to what's happened since that meeting. We had to bid from break. He told me he could be here the 16th. So I told Todd, I thought meeting people face to face at the door was the best approach. Todd had talked to each member of every residence the week prior, with the exception of the owner of 207 East 4th. I knew that, I was aware of it. Knowing this, I planned to get over there prior to break getting there at 9 o'clock. On my way over, Break got there early, so he got there at 8:30, and he was met by that resident, and they had a discussion, and I pulled up as that resident left. So I never got a chance to explain anything, the why, or any of the problems with the trees or anything, and I do regret that. I wish I'd had the opportunity. I'll have to have more strict planning in the future. But some of the other things I've been hearing, and I just kind of want to address some of this, is the out-of-the-box thinking with these trees. Why didn't we do this? Why didn't we do that? Why did we do the easiest thing possible? This wasn't done like without any thought. Our streets are really narrow. We've got an old town. It wasn't really designed for automobile traffic. So here are things that, like, why didn't we just curve the sidewalks around the tree? A couple things. One, that doesn't address that we have to dig the sidewalk up, right? So we're gonna have to destroy some of these roots just to do that. But even aside from that, what you end up getting is a heaved curved sidewalk in a few years. I mean, there's places in town that this has been done, and those sidewalks are heaving already. And that's been inside of my 17 years here, certainly. I don't know the years exactly, but it's fairly recent. And those sidewalks are already heaving. So it's not a good long-term option. One of the other things I had heard was, why didn't we just narrow the street? That street's already 38, it's not even 38 feet wide. That's one of the main arteries through town. We can't narrow that street. That's not an option. The only thing that we could have done would have been to remove parking spots and build big arched grassways around these trees. And then we'd be doing that in our already, parking starved downtown that we're already trying to figure out how can we get more parking down here. In the proximity of the amphitheater, it's not a realistic option in that spot. So moving forward from there, we decided that, none of those were realistic options or good use of taxpayer funds in our opinions. The city owned the trees. The trees were on city property. The trees were destroying city infrastructure. And I don't know it for sure. I mean, I didn't poll everybody, but I find it hard to believe that the majority of citizens would want us to spend $175,000 of their tax dollars on that street to have it, a section of it damaged later by a tree that falls or uproots, or the roots continually expand and destroy it that way. So, we tried to make the best decision we could based on all the factors. And I would like you guys to know that one of the homeowners stopped me the other day when I was out there, and he thanked me. He appreciated the city removed the tree. He said he's worried about that tree for years, falling through his house in a storm, and he slept like a baby the other night. And so it's not, everybody's not angry, but so I wanted to pass that along, that he was happy about it. what was I at here? So I also don't want people to think that we're doing this as a one-size-fits-all approach. That's not the case. Everything that we do is gonna be on a case-by-case basis as we do these streets. You know, obviously, the removals there, I thought were necessary, and to be 100% honest, for me personally, even if those trees would have been healthy, I would have recommended the same thing. They weren't healthy, but had they been long-term for the infrastructure of the town, I think that was the best thing we could have done there. But moving forward, you know, in an artery like that, we have very limited options. But in other parts of town where it's residential, we have a lot less traffic flow, we might not have the same need for parking. There are things that we could do. You know, there are options that we have available to us, whether it be, you know, closing one side of the street to parking, you know, and narrowing the street and having one side parking only. Those are all options that we can talk about, but it's not an option on the 200 block of East 4th Street. You know, going forward, I want everybody to realize that we're looking for options that are, you know, available to us, that make sense from a cost standpoint, an aesthetic standpoint, and a practical standpoint. And if we can make all those boxes work and everybody keep their trees, I'll be just as happy as anybody. And then just to kind of close it all out, it's worth noting to me that, you know, at some point, East 4th Street was trees. Where the sidewalks are trees. Where the houses are were trees. And all of those trees were removed. And they did that to build what we have now. And then somebody came in and they planted the trees that we just removed. And they did that as they built their infrastructure out. They said, well, this is a really nice place for a tree. We'll put one here. Well, now it's our turn. You know, we're redoing our infrastructure again. We have the ability to move these sidewalks over, create good, healthy, responsible spaces for trees, and then we can be the ones that plant the trees for the next generation. And our tree commission's doing a great job at that. This is a perfect opportunity for this. So I guess just to make everybody realize it's not all doom and gloom, we want to put trees back too, but they got to be the right tree in the right spot, you know. So anybody have any questions? All right.
Thank you, Jesse.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, public comments, do we have them now? Thank you, sir. Mr. Cantor?
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm here at the request of John Fleming, and I support Jesse Gels's testimony that he just presented. I do want to mention that it's always sad when we see large trees being cut down. And the linden tree was inspected by John Fleming. It had been infected with damage, and it wasn't a tree that was in perfect health. As we move forward, these problems are going to resurface, and what we, as the City Tree Commission, would like to suggest to you is that as we move forward, perhaps we could consider moving sidewalks toward the street as it is in Veterans Park in front of the courthouse. We'd also like to have the city encourage the city to have the street projects budget for tree planting after the street work is completed. We can put together trim grants, we've done that, but what we really would like to suggest is perhaps including a line item budget to replace trees that are removed and also add new trees as they're needed as these streets are restored. A final point is, I mean, we're a tree city, USA. The city of Hermann is proud of their trees. One thing to try to diffuse the disappointment with the tree removal. Perhaps moving forward, we can suggest that homeowners be given a chance to plant new trees in front of their property and have them restored so that we can maintain our beautiful tree city, Hermann. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to address them.
Any question? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to ordinances.
All right, the first, bill number 2022-24 is being postponed to the next meeting. I'm looking at and actually listening to everything that was said at the last meeting to try and make sure this is the last go around. So, bill number 2022-25, an ordinance authorizing the execution of a lease between the city as lessor and Todd Lensing as lessee.
This is one of our flood buyout lots that Todd has leased for many years, and there's a few citizens who we have leases with. They maintain our lot, so we don't have to mow it or anything, and then Todd uses it for off-street parking. Our practice has been, as these have become renewable, because they had not been updated in so long, is we had been doubling everybody's, so they're so low anyway. This was $5 a year, so I upped it to 10. The person before this last year who was renewed, theirs was 10, and I think we went to 20. This is a half lot. I'm sorry, this is a half lot, which is why it's cheaper as opposed to a whole lot.
And it's a 5-year renewal?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other discussion? We have a motion?
I move to approve bill number 2022-25.
Motion's been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made, second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried.
All right, the next is bill number 2022-26, an ordinance to approve a contract by and between the city of Hermann, Missouri and KMOV to provide a broadcast TV ad campaign in the St. Louis market.
Any discussion on this? This is what Tammy had presented before with the budget. If not, entertain a motion.
I move bill number 2022-26 approved.
Motion's been made. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion's made and second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried.
Maybe we ask Tammy, I think we're up against the year-end deadline here. Should we read it twice?
Just for her.
Right. Bill number 2022-26, an ordinance to approve a contract by and between the city of Hermann, Missouri and KMOV to provide a broadcast TV ad campaign in the St. Louis market.
Do I have a motion to approve? Second read.
I move to approve 2022-26, second read.
Motion's been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. All right, we will move on to old business. Building inspector, Mr. Mike, would you like to step forward, please?
Hi, how are you?
Good.
I am an inspector in Hermann and also in New Haven. And I guess you guys are thinking about doing a residential occupancy inspection. I put together a sample of a residential occupancy inspection form and a commercial occupancy inspection form. And these are kind of broad stroke items, you know. The intention of this is to kind of stay on top of properties that are rentals, and also every time a residence changes hands, if you sell your house and someone else buys it, I go through it, and it's health and safety. I'm not looking at picking the place apart like a real estate inspector. It's basically, you know, ground fault outlets, you know, your steps aren't falling down, there's railings on the porches, you know, smoke detectors in the house, you know, basic things that, you know, and if the outside becomes, you know, a dump site, you know, we have a little bit of reach with some of these things. Typically, I get through one of these inspections in New Haven in 15 minutes. Some days I can do 5 of these things, and, because they've had it for a little while, and things kind of fall into place in time. And what they charge $40 for a residential occupancy inspection. And if there's corrections to be made, I go out and I just re-inspect it, I don't charge for that. That's for the resident. And then the commercial occupancy inspections, this inspection takes a lot longer. This takes me a few hours because there's so many details that I have to check and be pretty accurate on. And this is only $30 for, an occupancy inspection for a commercial, which is basically something we should have anyways for businesses opening. They have, I believe Bob Sittons does that. He does the inspection
For
for
the guest houses.
yeah. So I included the commercial industrial inspection with this, but the residential one is the one I think that we're talking about. The only other town that I'm aware of that does something similar to this is St. Clair. They have a registry of all the houses and apartments in town. It's a one-time fee, they're on the registry, and then as the occupants change, it gets inspected again. And I believe their fee's like $25.
What about Sullivan? You've got that on this one table. Do they do it too then?
No, the Sullivan I put on here for building permit costs.
Okay.
The residential occupancy inspection, the only other town I know that does is St. Clair and New Haven.
So the only other towns in what parameters?
Well, I picked a sampling of like 6 communities around here, primarily ones that provided the information on the internet. Other communities may have it, but I tried to pick towns that were similar to Hermann. Some in size, some in, socioeconomic.
Now, doesn't Winston do it as well?
I didn't,
They do.
they do, I'm
Mhm.
sorry, I
That's
didn't.
okay. You did a lot of work here, so I appreciate that.
So, any questions on the occupancy?
You've got building fees here also for like if you put an electric service upgrade and,
Yeah, this has to do with, I'm gonna try and ask you guys to raise building permit fees here in town. So there's a separate
Okay.
issue here.
okay. So do these other towns do residential and commercial?
Mm-hmm,
Okay.
yeah.
Any other questions?
What's the correction process when you find,
Well, it's attached to utilities. Like if someone's renting an apartment, to get the utilities in their name, it has to pass a residential occupancy inspection, excuse me. And if there are violations, I'll give them a re-inspect. And I'll go back and double check that the things are done. The landlords are responsible for taking care of it in apartments. Again, depending on, how strict you want to be, this is an opportunity to just start maintaining, better housing stock, safer, rentals. Having a smoke detector never killed anybody. GFI outlets are important. These are huge financial corrections. This isn't gonna cost, the first year or 2 years is probably gonna take a little adjusting into. But like I said, I can whiz through these things in no time in New Haven. It's my only other experience with that.
so before the sale of a house, are you inspecting it before it sells or after it's sold?
Typically, the realtor will call me and ask me to come do the inspection.
Okay.
And then I'll typically let the realtor know the major things that I do. Again, I'm not going in and looking at, I'm not nitpicking. It's, I kind of have a little routine. I run through the house, just check to make sure that the ventilation fans work in the bathrooms, the hood over the stove, again, the GFI outlets, lighting, if you turn a light switch on, change the light bulb, or if it's a broken fixture, change it. that kind of cookie cutter maintenance stuff.
But you're not looking at anything structural or,
Well, I mean, if something stands out to me, I had an inspection this morning and I told the lady, she said, oh, that's it? And I said, well, your house is meticulously maintained. I'm not gonna check every single outlet in the house, because just, from my experience, when a house is in good shape, you can see it. If I come across something that's really disturbing, distressing to me, a handrail that you can push off with your hand, or stairs where the stringers are cracked and checked, that kind of stuff, yeah, that's gonna come up, because it's something that someone could get seriously hurt on. You know, I'm not gonna be poking too, you know, I'm sorry, I shouldn't, it's not gonna be a super in-depth inspection, it'll be a health and safety.
It's a general one.
Yeah,
Be a regular home inspection, it's the health and safety.
essentially, yeah.
If you see the black soot on a wall where an electrical outlet is, then that would cause
Yeah,
you alarm.
something like that stand out to me. The roof has holes in it, you know, there's rodent holes where the squirrels are coming in the soffits and stuff like that. I mean, these are things that can be corrected if they're allowed to go on. The property falls further and further into disrepair.
If you're doing an inspection where there's rental or sale, if you see deficiencies in there, is there a time span that needs to be correct before it
Yeah.
can be occupied?
Yeah, when they want their utilities on, it should be right before then. You know, that's the hold which we could have over, is it's in the landlord's best interest to get it corrected quickly because he starts collecting rent. It's the seller of the property's best interest to get things taken care of because you close on your house. That's the incentive I see. So. I'd be happy to go into greater detail if you wanted to pull me aside and talk to me, it's fine. And the other issue I wanted to ask you guys about or bring to your attention is, this is kind of a complicated process how we come up with fees for building permits. I have a multiplier example page that I gave you. Sorry it's not on a type, but my word processor's in my hands. Herman's residential multiplier is the lowest I've ever seen. Our commercial is on par with everybody else's residential. And what I did is I just took a sample structure of 1,200 square foot residence and business on the bottom. And with our multipliers, for example, Herman's $178 to build a 1,200 square foot residence. The next closest one to that is $445, that's Jefferson City. If you look over in this 1,200 square foot commercial, you'll see Herman is $786. That's on par with the other communities for like Jeff City, New Haven, St. Clair, and Sullivan. So I'd be happy to work with one of you guys if you wanted to come up with a multiplier that I think is reasonable. I gave you a page also where I put different multipliers in there ranging from 0.002 all the way up to 0.005, and what that would change the fee for the same typical 1,200 square foot residence to. So the commercial isn't horrible here. It's 0.004, and if you look at that first page I gave you, that kind of falls in line with everything else. And one note also on that, today I signed a building permit for a 2,578 square foot residence in town to be remodeled. And that building permit came out to $191. Anywhere else that would have been a $600 or $700 building permit. So I'm not trying to gouge people here in town. It's not me, I don't want the city to be gouging, but in my opinion, that's all it is. In my opinion, there's no reason we shouldn't be on par with these other communities. It puts money back into what we're trying to do here. And there's one last thing, two more things, and then I'll leave you for people alone. There's a building permit fee table that I put together, and this is for towns, Sullivan, St. Clair, New Haven, and Herman. And it's just, I took a sampling of fees that are charged for each community. And as you go down the line, we're the lowest and better than half of these. You know, a deck in Herman is $30, everywhere else it's $50 or $75. Electric service is $30, and you know, they're worth every bit of $30 per time. Swimming pool, hot water heater is the only thing that I think we're in line with everybody else. We don't require permits for roofs. And then the last item I wanted to ask you guys about was in the international code, there is a provision for fining people, property owners that start work without a permit. And it's a discretionary fine. Some people simply don't understand that they need to get a permit. Some people, they tell you the sky's blue, you better go outside and look out. So, I mean, it would give us a little bit of tool, a little bit of teeth and a tool to make people kind of cooperate and stick with the rule. I mean, the building department, or I'm not a fierce person, Lee Regal wasn't either, but there are standards you have to maintain. You know, particularly, you know, people come to Herman and expect it to, you know, not look like a dying town. So, some towns, you know, some of the fines for some towns, you know, can typically go up to 2 times the regular fee. If it's a $500 permit, someone starts the work knowingly, you know, trying to be deceptive, you know, that fee just became $1,000. You know, but I mean, it would be discretionary too. If somebody simply makes a mistake they don't understand, you know, not everybody understands what, you know, it's interpretation. But, you know, it would give us a little bit of, I don't know, it would give us a way to kind of enforce staying in the lines.
What kind of penalty do the cities charge? What kind of penalty for building without a permit?
Well, like for example, Washington will charge twice the regular permit fee. I believe it was Sullivan told me it goes up to $500. You know, it's discretionary also. And I'm not originally from Herman, where I grew up and was raised in Chicago. And when I first moved here, I called Lee Regal and had him come look at my house that I purchased in town. It was about 7 years ago. And he told me to get a permit. And I came down to get a permit, and I just about fell over when I think they wanted $30. You know, the fees down here, we're not in Chicago, I understand it, but we're not even close to being outrageous.
So honestly, a $30 fee at this point in time is not covering his hourly rate or any of the paper handling that's going through the office. It's not covering that.
And you know, I try to be, as Lee Regal was, I try to be expendable to people who are getting involved in a project and want me to come drop by and take a look. I'm on my way out the door to go do an inspection. I can spend 10 minutes and stop and help somebody out if they say, you know, what am I going to need? What's the process I'm going to need? If we don't pay for me, you know, that's a service that won't be available. You know, again, I'm not trying to gouge people. I just think, you know,
We want to keep our town safe and we want it to look nice.
yeah, and I think we're fully within our right to be competitive with these other towns.
I think I asked you this before, but I'm sorry, I've forgotten. On the multiplier, like say a new construction, okay, we're multiplying whatever our rate is times the square feet. Does that, say it's $300, does that $300 fee, is that covering all the re-inspections for them to get free to come back and do the plumbing and the electric and the HVAC, is that all included, or do we bill them out separately after that?
They can be, again, that's a discretionary thing.
Do you know how we've been doing it?
Rarely, I don't think, rarely Lee ever charged a re-inspection fee. I mean, if there's someone you tell, look, this has to be changed, this has to be addressed.
Or I'm talking like new construction.
New construction,
Is that a flat fee, or do we?
it's a
or we
flat
don't know?
fee.
Okay,
Yeah, it's.
We don't charge
I mean, there are things you can put into the fee, into the building permit fee, like a re-inspection or a review fee. I hardly ever charge a review fee. There's a drawing that came in about a month ago, and it was pretty complicated, and Jesse had to get his eyes on it, and Corey and I, and we haven't thought over it. So I did charge them a review fee.
yeah, I think that's, you've done on big things, okay.
So,
Or maybe you could charge a fee, like if they don't meet it, and you go back and re-inspect it, and they still haven't fixed it, then maybe the third time.
yeah, I mean, sometimes people earn that, so.
So recommendation of him throwing some figures together, what he,
Well, I think he kind of
you
did,
and him
and maybe
ti-
we should mull this over. First of all, maybe poll everybody and see if they're interested in raising fees, and then maybe we should take some time and study and decide what you want to do.
I know you're in favor.
I move to do that.
I'd have to look at it.
Okay.
I'm in favor.
I like to look at it.
2 look at, 2 in favor, so a little more investigation and then we'll,
Okay, I'd be happy to pass along my number to you guys, call me any questions, or if you
Okay.
want me to walk you through it.
very good.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Okay, also under old business, I guess this is gonna fall, it's gonna fall under old business tonight. I just want everybody to be aware, when Jesse was talking, made me think of it. When these trees go down, they go to our landfill, we have to pay to chip all that. But we have a major issue with commercial companies dumping a tremendous amount of stuff in there, and we don't charge them anything. It's basically for the residents, commercial people do it. At the staff meeting, we were talking about putting up a camera and so forth, and Jesse is looking into that. I just wanted you all to be aware that we're looking into that to get something done. The other thing that kind of makes me want to get it done now is 2 days in a row, I've watched the one that cut our trees, Brock, come from across the river with their big truck and their trailers with trees and make a left turn and go to our industrial park. They're not even, I mean, there's trees being dumped in there that's not even from here. So, I mean, it cost us $20,000 to grind that up.
And then what do you do with it when it's ground
So
up?
what I'm saying is, once Jesse figures out how to do all that, we have to put that infrastructure with a camera and so forth. We need to come up with a fee, so think about it, you know, an annual fee, and that way, for the commercial people. I mean, we don't want to gouge them, but they should pay their part. I mean, it's, so anyway, I just wanted you all to be aware that that's in the works, and so, also under old bit, again, this kind of falls under old or new. Everybody's aware that Cobblestone Hotels has been inquiring about Hermann for like 2 months now, and they want this feasibility study. Tourism director, economic person went to the other organizations. We were going to try and do it where it's a community-minded thing, and apparently the interest isn't there from some of them. The feasibility study is $10,000. If I understand correctly, if they decide to come to our community, they reimburse us the $10,000. I've been advocating for 4 to 5 years that we need a hotel here. And I think this, you know, maybe they won't decide to do it, but I think this is an opportunity. Once we have the feasibility study, it can be used on any hotel. Doesn't have to be the one that is soliciting us.
So this isn't Cobblestone's, this would be our feasibility study.
Right, that's
And
what I'm
we could
saying.
give
It's
it
for,
to
but it's for
any-
our hotels.
Right, but it could go to any hotel chain.
There you go. And so I just want to get everybody on board, I hope. I think this is something, you know, Hermann needs this hotel. We lose so much business from carpet meetings and bus tours because they all can't stay at the same place. And, you know, anyway, so by the next or for the next meeting, I would like to see us have this on where we can vote on this.
I would like to see a feasibility study for residents and businesses also to be included in this.
And that can be included. I don't know how much more that is. You'd have to get a quote, I believe.
Yeah, we're gonna have to go out for bids anyway. Tammy's working on that right now. But they do have add-ons, or when we looked into doing the hotel feasibility study, they did have different add-ons for the kind of things that Susan's mentioning. And they're less. They were like, I think between $3,000 and $6,000 each.
But I just think we need to bite the bullet and go for this thing. And, you know, it's been 2 months already. We don't want them to think that we're not interested. I mean, it's an opportunity. Herman, you know, we rely on that tourism dollar a lot, but you know, if if we can get a hotel, and have you ever noticed when you're driving down the road when there's a hotel built, gosh, 2 years later there's another one across the street, and then gee, all of a sudden there's a McDonald's or whatever. Or so I mean, you plant that seed for the first one. I'm not saying that they're going to flock here, but if you notice that when you go across country, that's how it happens.
Well, why should our people that come to our town for a wedding or whatever then go and stay at the Junction or in Washington?
And you would be
And they get
surprised.
those tax dollars.
And you would be surprised at my business how many people you say, oh, where you staying? New Florence, Columbia, Washington. They stay that far away to come to Herman. So I just think, you know. Anyway, I'll get off my box. I just want everybody to put it on the burner, and hopefully we can move forward with that. Any other questions about it? Because Tammy's here, she can answer more than me.
Well, if we discuss it, I'd like to see everything that's been, you know, understand been 15 locations, where are those locations been offered at?
Yeah, Tammy actually went with Mr. Hart, I think his name was, and I was not there.
That was at Tammy and I just brainstorming some locations. You know, some of them were daydreams and some of them are, you know, pretty obvious, but we'd be happy to share that with you all.
Who conducts these feasibility surveys? Is it an independent firm?
Yeah, in fact, we just got a new name of a company that we're going to include in our bid request.
I think Cobblestone has their company, they hired to do the
They have 2 or
feasibility.
3 that suggested, but we want some other ones too.
Yeah.
Okay. All's in your court, yeah, okay. Any other new or old business? Since I kind of stole it. Cool. Okay, we'll move on to motions. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move to approve the minutes.
Motion's been made, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Invoices for payment.
I move we pay the bills.
Motion's been made to pay the bills, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Liquor license, Bar Vin Beth Osler, 114 East 4th Street. That's where the Unicolor used to be, I believe, or Uncolored, or whatever it was called. You have a motion?
I move to approve the liquor license for Barvin.
Motion's been made, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Liquor license, Leighton New Lionheart Whiskey Company, 215 Schiller Street.
I move to approve.
Motion been made to approve, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Reappoint Mark Giddens to the Arts Council.
I move to approve.
Motion's been made, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Before you go further, I would just like everybody to know that Mark Deddens brought the Heritage Festival to My Fest this year, and it was very well ran, and it was very neat. And if there's another one, you should take your kids to see some of it, because there were things that you could learn about old time crafts and things that we used to do to live.
Okay, thank you. Reappoint Connie Johnson and Bryant Chorley to the Planning and Zoning Commission. You have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion's been made, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. special event application for Lionheart Whiskey LLC Germantown Jams Concert Amphitheater, August 20th, 2022.
I move
He's here, by the way, if anybody has any questions.
He's got two of them.
Well,
Yeah, okay.
any questions?
Good to see.
Hmm?
It's good to see that.
Yeah, no, yeah, okay. Do I have a motion to approve?
I move to approve.
Motion's been made, second.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Special event application, Lionheart Whiskey LLC Germantown Jams Concert for September 24th, 2022. Do you have a motion to approve that one?
I'll approve.
Motion's made, second.
Second.
Motion's made, second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Special event application with Paradowski Creative Film Scene at the Riverfront Park, June 3rd, 2022.
I move to approve.
Motion's been made, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Special event application for Midwest Blue Oval Car Show with requested street closures of 4th Street, Market to Gutenberg, and City parking lot on 4th, and Schiller Street from 4th to 3rd Street, August 12th, 13th, 2022.
Motion to approve?
Motion's been made, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion made, second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Special event application, Hermann Families in Action, Witches and Wine event with requested street closures on Schiller Street from 2nd to 4th and 4th Street from Schiller to Market with open containers, October 20th, 2022.
I move to approve.
Motion's been made, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion's made, second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. No further business, do I have a motion to adjourn? Or do you have nothing?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Motion's been made, do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you everyone for coming and watching.
So we're gonna get Eric out of here on time.
Yeah, I didn't sign first.
So I have a schedule for you, buddy.